Today I am going to continue my teaching on the 12 links of interdependence. And to kind of review here, these 12 links of interdependence are an explanation of how karma works through birth and then the lifespan and then rebirth and the continuation of suffering. And again, the painting is the wheel of life. And the reason why it is in the shape of a wheel is because a wheel spins. And that is the way sentient beings are going through one lifetime after another in samsara, this cyclic existence, which is pervaded and permeated with suffering. And so this is an explanation of that. And this section is like a fence that holds the whole thing together. And that's why it's on the outside. Jamgun Control said this. This is Jamgun Control III. And this comes from a commentary of his on the aspiration prayer for Mahamudra. The 12 links of interdependence, quote, the active workings of karma that is compared to a water wheel. So this is what I'm going to be continuing to talk about today. And I finished my last talk with the seventh link. And in this link, there is a picture of a man with a stick or an arrow in his eye. And this symbolizes feeling or sensation. After contact, then comes feeling or sensation. Maybe it would be a good idea for me to very, very briefly go through the links up until the eighth one, which is where I'm going to start today. The first is ignorance, and it's a picture of a blind man with a cane. And this is that we sentient beings do not recognize the ultimate nature of things. And as a result, we think that our experience is permanent, solid, and real. And we take it to be more than just experience. So that is the first link, ignorance, a blind man with a cane. The second is karmic creation, and this is a potter throwing clay pots. So it is through the power of the three afflictive states of mind, the three poisons of the mind, which is desire and passion, aggression, anger, and then ignorance, which this is different from the fundamental ignorance that was in the first one. Fundamental ignorance is taking that which is not a self to be a self and that which is not other to be an other. This ignorance is more apathy, denial, laziness, and so on and so forth. Just, you might say, trying to ignore the whole situation. And as a result of that, Again, we have the picture of a potter throwing clay pots. Because of that, our actions motivated by those three poisons of the mind. We have actions of body, speech, and mind, and then these create karma, these actions, and then that goes into the future and determines what we will experience in the future. And so the third is a monkey picking fruit in a tree. This is called consciousness. And so that we have a consciousness that is imprinted and conditioned by karmic creation, number two. And this is compared with momentum. The metaphor is that it's like a bow that is pulled back with an arrow and then let go. That carries us to the next one and to our next life. And this one is called Name and Form, and it's a man in a boat going from one shore to another. This is now the development of a new body and therefore a new life. And the next one is called perceptual entrances. And this is a building, a Tibetan building. This is a classic Tibetan painting. It was inspired by the Buddha because he had a painting made under his direction about the wheel of life. I do not know what it looked like, but this is the Tibetan version of this painting. So the windows are our sense organs in this building. And so we have a body and now we have sense organs, and then things start to develop. So from there we have contact, and this is a picture of a man and a woman touching or sometimes kissing. And this symbolizes the coming together of the senses, the sense organs, the sense objects, and then the consciousness of that sense. Then feeling and sensation is the last one that we ended up with in the last talk. And so again, this was a man with an arrow or a stick in his eye. And the point being that once there is contact, that we decide whether it is pleasant or unpleasant, or if we're going to be indifferent. If it's pleasant, then we tend to go towards desire. If it's unpleasant, we go to irritation and anger. And if it's indifferent, that's when we get apathetic or not caring. The eye is used because it's very sensitive. So now the next link of interdependence is desire. And I found actually 4 separate words that are used for this link. And I'm sure that it's just different translations of the same Tibetan word. But here are different translations: desire, grasping, involvement, attachment. And here the picture is people partying and perhaps drinking beer. They did brew beer in Tibet. And so here you have people partying and drinking beer. So the desire to continue a pleasant situation and avoid unpleasant ones or to ignore it is just continuous. And so once there is this feeling, you have to follow it, basically. And to quote the Dalai Lama, I'm using his book, The Meaning of Life, and on page 58, this is the quote: "Attachment is a mental factor that increases desire without providing any satisfaction." The point here is that our minds, actually, the essence of our minds is Buddha nature. And as a result, our minds are limitless. And so a confused mind, one that is in ignorance, ignorance being the ignorance in that first link, the blind man with a cane, that our desire has no limit also. No matter how much we have, it is very possible and probable that it won't be enough. There is always something out there that is nicer than what you have, more convenient, shinier, whatever. It's amazing how easy it is to become dissatisfied with what we have and just think that if we have something else, we're going to be happier. Then that leads to the ninth link, and it is addiction. An alternate, two other alternate translations are adoption, 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 and grasping. And this is a person picking fruit. And so here we have making plans to continue pleasant experiences or to avoid unpleasant experiences. We want the desire to be total, to just be totally satisfied. So it's a continuous addiction to one pleasant experience after another, and continuous addiction to avoid one unpleasant experience after another. And the third poison of the mind is this apathy, denial, indifference, all of that. It's the same to continue that. Kind of a don't wake me up, I'm enjoying ignoring all of this too much. At least it's not too painful. It could be worse. So because of this, we continually accumulate karma, and this leads to rebirth. So there are four types of grasping here. The first is grasping at desired objects, things that we find attracted to. And it's interesting about desired objects. It isn't just physical objects like a car or a person. It can also be experiences. in this country now, what seems to be very popular, at least before COVID, was taking a cruise or traveling around the world and so forth. So these aren't uh, physical objects, they're experiences. And it could be these desired objects. Since our minds are limitless, it could be anything. It could be books. Uh, there is a place out here where I live, which is a rural area. And the man, and I'm assuming it's a man, but I could be wrong about that, but he has an old house that is in poor repair, and he has at least 2 to 3 acres of old stuff, machinery, trucks, trailers, whatever, sitting out surrounding the house. It could be a house full of 150 cats. So that's one of the 4 types of grasping. Another is grasping at our view of ourself, who we are. And again, these come from the Dalai Lama in this book of his, The Meaning of Life. The third type of grasping is, in his words, grasping at a bad system of ethics and conduct. Total confusion, thinking bad is good and good is bad, or just plain not caring. And he also then, for the 4th type of grasping, is grasping at any other types of bad views. And bad views are holding views that uh, that are contrary to the Dharma or deny the Dharma. It's not a bad view is not being a Christian or being a Muslim. It is just feeling that the teachings of the Buddha are totally wrong. And quite honestly, the teachings of the Buddha are found in other religions. The 16th Karmapa said that all religions come from the same source. And of course, that source would be the primordial essence of mind. So you will find in other religions teachings about the importance of kindness, compassion, love, tolerance, and so forth. Now, I will say this, that Khenpo Rinpoche has said more than once that it is fine to be attached to the Dharma and fine to be attached to sacred objects. That there is no problem with this. Eventually, as you progress on the path, that even that attachment will diminish. I will say this, that Peter at the KTD bookstore once told me that when they would get a new shipment in from Nepal of Dharma objects, statues, paintings, and so forth, that Rinpoche would be the first one there when they opened these things. On the other hand, what I suspect Rinpoche did, because he couldn't keep all of these things in his room, is he would then give them to organizations and people that he felt uh, it would be good for them to receive these objects. So name and form through grasping and addiction constitute one life. Uh, Once the body is fully developed, we continually experience contact, feeling, attachment, and grasping over and over. And then this accumulates karma, habitual patterns, and conditions our mind. Again, here is a quote. It charges up the karmic potency established in the consciousness. Next is becoming. And this is a picture, a painting of a man and woman in bed. And so this is the beginning of the third life that is represented by these 12 links of interdependence. So the person's karma has been accumulated for rebirth. And this is the same point that was reached at karmic creation. And so this ends in death in the Bardo experience. We have no control of the process. And now the third life is beginning. The second life has ended. The third life is beginning. And this is what makes it necessary for us to be reborn in samsara, that we have no control of this process. It is, you might say, ruled by karma. "11 is a picture of a woman giving birth. And this is titled Rebirth. So here comes the next life. The body has been formed in the womb. Consciousness entered at the point of conception, and now it emerges. So this is dependent arising. And as a result, we experience all sorts of things according to our karma. The suffering and the happiness is a result of our karma. And of course, we engage in all kinds of actions and accumulate more karma. And then this leads unavoidably to aging and death. So here, this third life is condensed into a really 3 of these links, the last 3. And so this brings the last link, which is aging and death. And this is a man carrying a corpse to a sky burial site. So aging, of course, is unavoidable. Our bodies get older, our bodies deteriorate towards the end of life. Between birth and death, there are many experiences of suffering that we have. And of course, it is avoidable if we are diligent practitioners, and that is the goal in Buddhism, of course. But the point here is that we need to understand these 12 links to understand samsara. And again, samsara means cyclic existence, and that beings in samsara keep spinning around the wheel. And while spinning, we are spinning in suffering. One of the Tibetan names for sentient beings is karma carrier. And it is karma that propels one through samsara. And as a result of karma, there is no freedom to escape or to avoid suffering. And this is why we practice, of course, is to develop freedom, to be able to escape. So now to analyze these here a little bit. And the mental afflictions, the poisons of the mind. Kleshas is the Sanskrit word, and it literally means poison. So the mental afflictions are number 1, ignorance, number 8, desire, number 9, addiction. Karma or action caused by the kleshas are number 2, karmic formation, and number 10, becoming. Suffering is number 3, consciousness, number 4, name and form, number 5, perceptual entrances, number 6, contact, number 7, feeling, number 11, birth, and number 12, old age and death. And these sufferings are the same as the first noble truth. And you could say that these describe conventional reality, the way sentient beings experience the world and view the world. Now, I mentioned this before, but to kind of put this succinctly, the relationship between the 12 links and the 3 times is that 1 and 2 are a past life, our immediate past life, or lots of our past lives. 3 through 9 are the present life, and 10 through 12 are the next life. And so this whole cycle is, as I mentioned, like a water wheel. It's endless, continually spinning. And in terms of causality and karma, it very simply states that if there is a cause, there will be a result. And if there is a result, there was a cause. That phenomena are interconnected, interdependent, interrelated. Things don't just happen randomly. The Tibetans say that if you plant barley, you will harvest barley, and if you plant poisonous seeds, you will harvest poisonous fruit. And that is a very simple explanation of karma. So now there are types of causes, and this gets into logic. The first is a necessary cause, and this means a cause that is necessary for a result to happen. So ignorance, link number one, this basic ignorance of taking that which is not a self to be a self and that which is not other to be an other, is a necessary cause. The second is accompanying conditions or secondary causes. And these are factors that influence the quality and the nature of the result. So to use the example of barley, if you plant barley, it is the barley seeds being planted that is the necessary cause if you want to harvest barley. The accompanying conditions or the secondary causes are things like the weather, the soil, diseases that could afflict the barley, insects, and so forth. So habitual patterns, karmic seeds, circumstances, and so forth play an important part, but are not the necessary cause. They're based on our ignorance, which is the primary cause, the necessary cause. And so there are 5 aspects of causality here to go into this karma in more depth. One is no permanence, that when the result manifests, the cause vanishes. That you might say the seed is destroyed by the sprouting of the barley. Second, there's no discontinuity between cause and effect. So as the result is becoming, the cause is ceasing. He uses example of a balanced scale, and so as the one is going down, the other is going up. There's no transference. The cause is different from the result. They do not have the same characteristic. Again, like a seed and a plant. There can be a large result from a small cause. And this is really important, that sometimes we think that insignificant, non-virtuous actions will have insignificant results. And if you think about it, a nut in a tree, that a very large tree can grow from a very small nut. The last characteristic here is that it's an infallible process. One thing, though, that I think is very important to know, and that is there is one good aspect of bad karma, and that is it can be purified. So it's very, very important to, as you practice, to learn how to purify negative karma. Now, from the viewpoint of the ultimate, all of this is like an illusion or like a dream. But on the other hand, since we are, you might say, believing that this illusion is real, is the truth, we have to be very careful of our actions of body, speech, and mind. To quote Gampopa, though my view is as vast as the sky, my attention to karma is as fine as grains of flour. So the purpose of this wheel of life is to show how things happen on the conventional level. And the idea is for us to give rise to love, compassion, and many other qualities. To see others as being in great pain, fear, anguish, trapped, and don't have a clue. You could say most people are clueless. And the other purpose of this is to help motivate us to try to give up succeeding in samsara, that it is in the long run pointless and hopeless. You cannot succeed in samsara. You just keep spinning. Sometimes you are in the higher realms, and most of the time you are in the lower realms. There has never been a census of these 6 realms, but it is said that there are very few beings in the full God realms, a few more in the jealous God realm, a few more in the human realm, but the vast majority of beings are in the animal realm, the hungry ghost realm, and the hell realm. And if you just think about the animal realm, uh, the world is full of insects, arachnids. These are spiders, ticks, and so forth. And I think their ticks are arachnids. Anyway, very small creatures, and there are countless numbers of these. And if you get into the organisms that you can find in pond water under a microscope, that there's a huge number in a pond. And there are even more in the hell realm and the um, hungry ghost realm. So it's very important to keep these things in mind.